It's Rich here from the Rich Mix, and I'm really excited to have my good friend Caitlin here. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on today.
No, no worries. Now, for those who may not be familiar with you, can you share a little bit about your background and how you got started in scalp
Mhm.
pigmentation or SMP industry?
Yeah, excellent. So originally, 20 years ago, I did a diploma of beauty therapy,
Yep.
which took me into a number of different businesses. And where I ended up was at a cosmetic day surgery, doing medical lasers and medical skin treatments. There, and they needed a hair transplant assistant.
Yeah.
So just to diversify and just keep my job interesting and different, I decided to put my hand up and say, yes, I'd love to learn that.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a nurse.
Yeah.
And so this was a great way of getting into doing a bit of theatre work without actually being a nurse, and
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. And
Yeah.
from there, I spent 10 years as a hair transplant assistant. I
Yeah.
ran a day hospital, did some accreditation work for them as well. And then the surgeon came to me and said, look, I'm thinking of retiring in 5 years' time. Is there anything you want to learn how to do? Can I help you in any way? And I had seen scalp micropigmentation at a conference over in Alaska,
Yeah.
of all places, and the results looked amazing. They were so lifelike, and the doctor that was showcasing his patient had alopecia, so he didn't have any hair,
Yeah.
and this was the next best thing. So I
Yeah.
saw it way back in 2011, and
Wow.
I thought I could do that. I
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
do that with my beauty skills,
Yeah.
my artistic ability. It plays on all
Just
my
all
hair
came
transplant
together. It's
knowledge.
like that. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like the perfect thing for
Yeah.
me.
Perfect combo. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah, started in 2015. I started my SMP career,
Yeah.
and it's just gone from there.
And then because my follow the next question was going to be like, what inspired you to launch SMP Australia, the business?
Yeah, so when I had done my training, I realized that in Australia, it didn't feel like many people were doing it well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt like there needed to be a bigger presence. It's such a
Yeah.
great treatment. There was only a few companies here that offered it well,
Yeah.
and I thought I had a fantastic opportunity. My entrepreneurial brain was ticking away of all the ideas, and that's just me. I love creating things. So whether I'm creating, SMP or creating my business, I love creating my business just as much as my SMP
Yeah.
results.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I found uh I went on to the ABM lookup and realized that SMP Australia, or Scalp Micropigmentation Australia, name hadn't been taken yet.
Yeah.
I quickly snatched it up and started the business.
Yeah. That's awesome. Especially back then, because SMP is relatively niche,
Hmm.
but it's a really fast growing field. So what was the industry like when you first got involved? Like,
Yeah,
how was that playing field?
it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was like no one was sharing any information on how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
People were very experimental as
Yeah.
well. So we
Yeah.
saw this big swing of like really cool results, and then like,
Dodgy.
oh, like some wow, like no, you shouldn't be doing that
Yeah.
result.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so we I did my first training in Australia, and it wasn't good.
Yeah.
When I looked through the manual, it still had words like eyebrow in there. So I
Okay. Yeah.
realized a trainer had simply taken the eyebrow manual and changed all the words from eyebrow to SMP.
Yeah.
And knowing now how well I do my SMP treatments now versus my original training, it's chalk and cheese in the
Yeah.
method,
Yeah.
products, and everything.
Yeah.
So I went overseas to do my training because we just didn't have the history here
Yeah.
on
Skills.
how to teach it
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Fantastic. So many people may not understand, like, what scalp pigmentation is.
Hmm.
Can you break it down for us what SMP is and what it stands for? Like we know.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
SMP stands for Scalp Micropigmentation, and
Yeah.
essentially it's an artistic way of creating the look of a full head of shaven hair
Yeah.
through the form of tattooing. So we
Yeah.
literally tattoo every single little dot that looks like stubble on someone's
Yeah.
scalp. So SMP or scalp micropigmentation is mainly known for its shaven effect. That's what most
Yeah.
people think of when they think of scalp micropigmentation. But we can also do density treatment for both men and women. We can do scar camouflage,
Yeah.
and we can do treatments for all different types of alopecia,
Yeah.
as well as facial micropigmentation.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I'm like the before person, over here. Till
And
after.
here's the after.
And
No.
then after coming soon. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So there's an often misconception that SMP is only for men with hair loss, but
Mm.
obviously alopecia is a big one for a lot of ladies. A lot of ladies got thinning hair and they want to make it look fuller, and just that working with SMP and actually doing a bit of that on them can completely transform the
Absolutely.
look and their confidence.
Totally. And
Yeah.
I think for a lot of women as well, like they do associate femininity with,
Yeah.
luscious hair.
Yeah.
Like
Hair. Yeah. 100%.
not all, but yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of women, do find it really quite hard dealing with hair loss.
Yeah.
1 in 3 women over, 50 experience some degree of hair loss. So it's actually really common.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also for our females with alopecia, so whether that is lichen planopicaris, where it's just small little areas of scarring alopecia, or it might be alopecia universalis or totalis,
Yeah.
we can certainly help those women as well who opt not to go down the path of having a hairpiece or wig.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a good alternative compared to like hair transplants, like Turkish hairlines. Everyone's going to Turkey and you see those, with their hair, and so many horror stories from that as
Yeah.
well.
But what we also find is that every hair transplant could use SMP. So
Yeah.
whether we're camouflaging the scarring to hide the telltale signs of a hair transplant,
Yeah.
or if we're enhancing the hair
Yeah.
transplant,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
work together so well
Yeah.
as well. So,
Yeah.
for those guys that want hair, that's totally fine and that's personal preference.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can still help them make their
Yeah.
hair transplant results look way better.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Now, you've likely changed thousands of lives through your work. Can you share a particular memorable transformation story that highlights that emotional, psychological impact with SMP?
I
Have you got
go
any?
back to one particular client always
Yeah.
because there's two, but
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
share one.
Share it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there was one particular guy, his name's Adrian, and he is a big advocate for us.
Yeah.
So he started his hair transplant journey quite young at 19.
Yeah.
And he went to a hair transplant surgeon who back in those days was completing what we call macrografting procedures. So hair transplant, but where they planted the hairs, it's that typical doll's hair row look. So it's
Oh,
very
okay.
big
Yep.
chunks of
Yep. Yep.
grafting done in I think it was early 80s.
Yeah.
When he was a little bit older, his hair continued to thin and revealed all of the chunky hair transplant grafts. And so he decided it wasn't for him. He had a plastic surgeon every 6 months remove a row of these transplanted hairs. So he was left with a lineal scar, and it took quite some time. It took a number of years to actually remove all of these doll's row hairs that he paid so much money, time and energy into having. He then opted to have a hairpiece for 25 years.
Yeah.
And it was no secret. He had a hair transplant party, invited all his friends to come around, be like, this is what I'm doing. I'm having my hairpiece.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing. And so he wore a hairpiece for 25 years and then started looking back into other options because as he was approaching 50, he was like, well, I can't wear this forever because it looks really youthful.
Yeah.
I can't thin it out. I can't, there's only so much you can do with a hairpiece. So then he rang me one afternoon and we had a really big discussion about SMP because I had been going for 3 years at that. And we had a really big discussion about how he could transition and come across, and he really did like the natural effects that I was creating. And so, he flew in to see me. He was from interstate. So he flew in once a week for 3 weeks to build out the result. And we've done his touch-ups for him as well over the years. But that's just such a big full circle of emotions, all to do with hair. And for some people, they don't think, oh, it's just hair, but many people, it does mean so much to their identity.
Mate, I'll tell you now, it meant a lot to me back when I was 18, when I was like a cross Michael Jackson look / Prince, like long hair, mullet, crazy. I loved my hair. I used to blow dry it. Mum used to hassle me, Rich, come on, get out of the bathroom, my sister. But it meant so much. And I can imagine, especially when you start thinning and you lose confidence, you feel, you lose self-esteem. You're not the same person. And I think now getting this done, he'd wake up in the morning, not putting a hair piece on. It's like, this is me. How cool is that?
And your look doesn't change, so you don't have to worry about hair loss progressing, because once we've created your procedure, then your look is ongoing from then on. And I've had so many clients tell me over the years that once they've had their procedure, they actually then forget about hair loss, because even if their hair loss is progressing, they can't see it. So because they shave their hair or clip their hair, you don't actually notice when you're experiencing hair loss when your hair's that short and you've got SMP in there. So for so many guys, then it stops being this thing that gives them anxiety, and it kind of just they forget about it, and it just opens their mind for other things.
Well, Adrian would be pretty chuffed now,
Totally.
He'd be really happy camper, Oh, well done. So on the business side, so you built SMP Australia into a well-known, respected brand. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced growing the business, and how did you overcome them?
I think we were super lucky with our team. It all happened quite naturally. So I feel like in business, most business owners might tell you that staff can usually be the biggest hurdle, but I feel like they're our biggest asset. So we're so lucky to have the team that we do. It just progressed really naturally. It wasn't something that I sought out and was like, right, I want to have, a certain number of locations. It just happened quite slowly, and we were approached by the girls, or we spoke with them whether or not if something they wanted to do and come on board with the team. And I feel like we're better together, because I feel like the biggest hurdle in my SMP career would be being an individual in this industry, not having a team, not having anyone to bounce off of, and how to do results and get the results that we're achieving. So I feel like being alone was probably the hardest part. So building this team was definitely the best thing I could have done. To feel more confident in what I was creating, but then also we kind of grew it all together.
Just like a little business family,
Nice.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so what advice would you give to someone looking to start their own SMP business, and what skills and qualities would they need to succeed?
I feel like you just have to be really patient and be prepared to work hard. You're entering a time where SMP is really taking off now in Australia. So getting your first models can be quite difficult. Offering discounts really doesn't sway people to jump at opting to be a model for you, offering a discount. I think you just have to really get out there and network and get all your friends on board, and really hustle to be able to build your business.
It's a lot of pro bono work, a lot of free stuff you might have to do as well, just to
and you can't
sacrifice
start
your
learning.
time.
Like I may teach my SMP one way, and then for most people that they might click and go like, yep, that's definitely, you know, the right style for me. But
Yeah.
I always encourage my students to train with lots of different people, because you know, one method isn't going to suit every single client that walks through your door. You have to have a vast variety of abilities in
Yeah.
different styles. So
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
just keep learning, keep going to the conferences,
Yeah.
just to stay up to date with the latest information and techniques.
Yeah. Yeah. No, awesome. So someone like, I know for you, like education is a big part of your mission. So what sets your SMP training programs apart from others in the industry?
Yeah, well, obviously the big one here is that it is now a nationally accredited training course,
Yeah.
which is so
Awesome.
important. So with everything that I do, I always try and take it to the highest standard. I always try
Yeah.
and learn as much as I possibly can. And then the
Yeah.
training side of our business was the next step.
Yeah.
You know, I was very lucky to be invited into Skills IQ to be the advisor, I guess, of the SMP unit
Yeah.
that has now been put into the diploma of cosmetic tattooing, because it never
Yeah.
used to be included.
Yeah.
Um, and now I'm super excited to actually have the ability to join in the RTO EZE training
Yeah.
and be a trainer exclusively
Yeah.
for EZE training, so that we can offer the nationally accredited training course,
Yeah.
which is the only one in Australia at this stage
Yeah.
of the
Oh,
time
it's
of this
awesome.
recording.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Definitely supporting that.
yeah, yeah. And I just think that's so important. I've always, like, with my training, with my beauty training, like that was my thought process. You know, I
Yeah.
had three options in Adelaide,
Yeah.
and I picked the nationally accredited one because
Yeah.
it gives you a qualification. It gives
Yeah.
you, you know, a recognition for your hard work and your
Yeah.
learning. And insurance wise, you know, that's another big one.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, like
Really
it's so
important.
important
Yeah.
to set yourself up with the best available training at the time.
Yeah. 100%. That's awesome. So now looking at marketing and brand growth for your business. So
Yeah.
in the world of like cosmetic tattooing, branding and marketing is crucial. What has been your most effective marketing strategy and for growing your SMP Australia business?
I think trying everything was the best
Yeah.
strategy, because back when, you know, this wasn't well known,
Yeah.
I first of all relied on a lot of word of mouth through the surgeon I worked for. So
Yeah.
I always played tribute to Dr. Marzola, who was my mentor in all of this to begin
Yeah.
with, and gave me my skills in the
Yeah.
hair transplant world and hair design. He provided me with a lot of referrals initially when no one even knew what this was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we had to keep just trying different things. And you know, now that there are more amazing providers here in Australia,
Mm.
to set us apart, I guess, you know, our branding has always looked premium. But like I
Yeah.
tell my students, there is a need for every type of brand in the business.
100%.
People need Chippers Chips. People
Yeah.
need David Jones.
Yeah.
There is a need for everyone, and you need to find your own brand and position yourself where you want to position yourself. There is nothing wrong with being a cheaper provider. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with being a more premium provider.
Yeah.
You just have to decide for yourself, you know, what type of business you want to be,
Yeah.
and then brand yourself accordingly.
Yeah. No, 100%. No, and I think it is, like if you go back a little bit, like the industry is not just about having that skill, but you got to be a really good people person, and yeah, and everyone will in their own individual brand. Their name is their brand as well, not just the business.
Yeah.
So, no, it's pretty cool. So, social media plays like a huge role in building trust and showcasing your results. What other platforms do you use? Insta and TikTok and all that to attract new clients and students?
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
TikTok at this stage is still quite a young demographic on there.
Yeah.
It is changing in the last 12 months, but I started on TikTok. I start on most social platforms as soon as they start, just
Yeah.
to grab the handle and gain awareness of whatever's in there.
Yeah.
TikTok was an interesting one. I managed to go viral on TikTok, and I've got 13,000 million views on one of my TikTok,
Wow, that's
which was
awesome.
really
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah.
But you just don't know how to replicate it. It's
I
just
know.
so the algorithm is so weird.
It
So
is so weird. It's just that
we've had
one
some
lucky
weird,
thing. you
Yeah,
know?
we've had some really high numbers, a couple of mil on lots of our videos because
Yeah,
we were just first to market in that space.
yeah, yeah,
And that's all it was, I think, at that point, because it was new, it was interesting. There wasn't many accounts that offered it. And so, like most of these platforms, they push the content out to the person they think is going to stay looking at it for the longest.
yeah.
And so we were just lucky to be in that space at that time.
Wow. Yeah,
But
that's
yeah, I try
awesome.
everything. Pinterest as well is
Yeah,
quite a good one. Instagram, of course,
yeah,
is my favorite,
yeah,
for a bit of a lookbook and showcasing my results, which is what
yeah,
Instagram was originally designed for. But also YouTube. I do find a
yeah,
lot of people go to YouTube for researching.
yeah, yeah,
And so during COVID, when we couldn't physically tattoo, I did create my YouTube channel and created a way of me dealing with, I guess, not physically tattooing. I still wanted to be
yeah,
working
yeah,
on business. So I
yeah,
created over 40 interviews with friends from around the SMP community all over the world,
yeah,
and created a 5-minute fast facts series on SMP. So that was
yeah,
my way of
awesome.
keeping busy and
Yeah,
creating, again, just being more creative with the
that's
business
it.
during
Yeah.
that time.
And we're so
Yeah.
lucky to be able to do that because, the old days of sitting in your shop, oh God, I hope someone walks in now, and waiting for people to walk in are gone. We
Oh,
have to get out there. We got to, if you just do one bit of content, you could share that with so many different platforms and they all got their own benefits.
yeah, and
And
we have such a vast range of clients
yeah,
as well. So, we have, some guys as young as 20, right through to my oldest client, I think is 78.
yeah,
And
wow.
so
Yeah,
you've got to find a space to promote to all of them.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool. So now SMP is obviously involving in new techniques and technologies. Is there some latest trends that in innovations that are coming up at the moment in SMP?
I feel like I always like to stay up to date with what people are putting out there,
Yeah,
whether I agree with it or not.
yeah, yeah,
I do tend to always go back to tried and tested, and I feel
yeah,
like a lot of the OGs in the industry do the same.
yeah,
So
yeah,
while like hair strokes was one trend that was sort of pushed out there for a little bit,
yeah.
the proof is in the
In
pudding,
the
I guess,
pudding,
of
100%.
yeah, of like what these results look like long term. I will
Yeah,
never jump into a trend to be trendy. I
yeah,
always, I might trial it on a model and then wait for 12 months, see what the results look like, and then make a decision if that's a safe and effective procedure for my clients or not,
yeah.
because it's my name I'm putting out
Oh,
there.
100%. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it is very tricky because, like, what do you see the future then in SMP in the next 5 to 10 years? Obviously, there's going to be people
I think
coming into an
there's going to
industry, they
be,
leave.
yeah, I don't know if there'll be much more changes in terms
Yeah,
of equipment. I feel
yeah,
like
yeah,
that's at its pinnacle. Like there's
yeah,
some really great machines out there.
yeah,
Needles don't change that much from
yeah,
year to year. I feel
yeah,
like it's the creativity and the art style of the artists that are going to be the biggest change.
yeah. No, awesome. Um, Obviously, the other thing I was going to ask you, like, there's a growing awareness about scalp health and non-invasive solutions to hair loss. What SMP fit into the broader conversation about wellness and self-care? How does it fit into that area?
Yeah, I feel like if the person is really struggling mentally with, maybe anxiety
Mm.
about losing their hair, then,
Yeah,
this is a great option. And then this is where we sort of go down the path of, all the reasons people lose hair, which is not the typical male's standard baldness.
yeah,
It's something different. And, some of my alopecia clients, have suffered greatly with anxiety because it literally can be within 4 weeks that they completely go from nothing wrong, full head of shaven hair, full
yeah,
head of hair, to every morning they wake up and there is
hair.
literally clumps of hair on their pillow. They lose their
Yeah,
eyelashes, they lose their eyebrows. And so SMP can be such a great way to give back, not really a feature on the face, but just frame the face again
yeah, yeah,
nicely and
yeah,
not look so blank.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think especially for like any of my autoimmune disorder clients, like this is where SMP can be a big savior.
Yeah.
And just they thought there was no other option. You know, they go to the dermatologist and seek support and seek treatments, but you know, unfortunately, not all of them are successful.
Yeah.
They might work for a while and then the hair reverts back.
Yeah.
SMP can be just such a great procedure just
Yeah.
to then move forward and not worry about what their hair is doing. And
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
I guess, like I mentioned before, goes to, you know, just even the younger guys that are really struggling with losing their hair at such an early age. You know, some
Yeah.
guys start losing their hair at 16, 18, which is, you know, really quite upsetting and sad for
Yeah.
the young
100%.
teen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, it's awesome. It's such a good service to offer these people, you know.
totally.
Yeah, so running a business can be intense. Now, how do you balance work, personal life, and staying creative in the industry?
Yeah, balance. What's
Well,
that?
balance. I know. There's no such thing as balance.
I do try, but you know, I couldn't do any of this without my husband. So my
Yeah.
husband Daniel works in our business, and a
Yeah.
lot of people that have been involved with our business will know who he is.
Yeah.
He looks after the running of the business. So while I get to do all my favorite things of being
Yeah.
creative and tattooing and come up with all the ideas,
Yeah.
he definitely is the brains behind the business and runs the business.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
you know, I just could not do it without him.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And you know, we've got two kids as well. And so while I'm tattooing most days,
Yeah.
um, you know, it's he's the one that gets to sort of run out and pick kids up and take them here, there, and everywhere. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's awesome.
yeah, it just couldn't work. And especially in the early days, it's hard. You've got to give up
Mm.
you know, some of that family time,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And, you know, when I did my traveling and go to overseas conferences, because there's just nothing available in
Yeah.
Australia, my kiddies were really young. And so
Yeah.
it's also relying on like my mother-in-law and
Yeah.
mum to look after kids,
Yeah.
as well to help Daniel. Yeah, so I mean, you do have to give up something, but
Yeah.
you know, this has been amazing for our family. So
Yeah.
you know, only 2 weeks ago, I was doing a masterclass with friends of mine from the UK and New Zealand in
Yeah.
New
How cool is
Zealand.
that in New
I mean,
Zealand?
you
How
take the
mad's
whole
that?
family, you know,
I
Daniel's
know.
involved with the business. And so,
Yeah.
you know, we bring the kids along and they have seen some amazing places, you know,
Yeah.
all to do, you know, and be thanks to
Yeah.
SMP. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
That's it.
they're benefiting from it.
That's it.
And they come in and they make up, you know, aftercare packs and they learn about the business. My son makes reels for us.
Yeah.
And
How
so,
good's
you know, they're
that?
involved with the business too.
How old are the kids?
They're 11, so yeah, 12 and 10, almost
Yeah.
11.
Oh, that's cool, mate. You'll get them working in the business soon. They'll be like,
I,
hey, you know, get
I
in
know
there.
you got to get yours on board now.
I know. I've got a long way. Well, Charlie and Lola, Charlie just turned 4 and Lola's just turned 6. So,
Oh, look,
oh my
perfect
God.
time.
Yeah. So if you give a one piece of, you know, we all hear about this question, one piece of advice to your younger self when starting in the industry, what would it be?
Ooh. I think it would be, it's all going to be okay.
Yeah. Everything will work out, pan out the end.
And don't be afraid to take the risks.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you want something bad enough, you'll make it work.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what's next for SMP Australia? You got any exciting projects or expansions coming up?
Well, I am super excited that we have started the training side of
Yeah,
things. This
yeah,
is something that I've wanted for such a long time. So this is my new baby at the moment is now offering, you know, the accredited
yeah,
Scalp Micropigmentation
yeah,
training. So I feel like now it's time to up the level here in Australia. So, you
yeah,
know, I really want to get all of my past students on board and, you know,
yeah,
get some RPL happening
yeah.
and
Exciting.
really raise the standards here in Australia.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
whether that's doing more of my micro courses or doing you know, more of my fundamentals training. I feel like that's where Australia needs to be, because there's not enough regulation here.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's my biggest push, is to create the better quality here
yeah, yeah.
in Australia, and really support the new emerging artists.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then on this podcast, we're actually going to have a link to your website and to your Insta and to all your training programs as well. So people can actually have a good look at that. Now, one last question. This is the most important question. What's your go-to karaoke song?
I have to say it's like Love Shack, because it's such an easy one that everyone gets up to dance.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's just one that everyone joins in, so it's not just me singing.
yeah, awesome. I love it.
That's always a goodie and an oldie.
Yeah, that's the best, man. Well, thank you so much, Caitlin, for coming onto the Rich Mix. I really
For having
appreciate your
me.
time. I know you're busy, and you're probably going to get back to it again, But no, I really, really appreciate it. And thanks again. I think we should do it again. We should do like a part two.
Absolutely. Always up for sharing stories and knowledge. So thanks
Yeah,
for having
no,
me. I appreciate
no,
it.
no worries. Oh, it's awesome.